Welcome to Legacy Coins. And before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you are about to hear might just change the way you look at every single coin you have ever held in your hand. Imagine this. You're cleaning out your grandmother's old dresser drawer, and tucked beneath a pile of faded receipts and forgotten birthday cards, you find a small plastic bag filled with old pennies. You almost toss them. After all, they're just pennies, right? 1 cent practically worthless in today's world. But then you look a little closer at one of them, a small, copper-colored coin with the date 1985 stamped on it and a tiny letter D just beneath. Your heart rate picks up. You have heard stories. You have seen headlines. And now, holding this coin in your trembling fingers, you wonder, could this actually be the one? Well, let me tell you something that will absolutely blow your mind. The 1985 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent, that tiny, everyday penny, has been valued by serious numismatic experts and elite collectors at a staggering, jaw-dropping figure of up to $167 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $167 million for a penny. And before you think this is some kind of joke or internet myth, stay right here with us because by the time this video is done, you will understand exactly why that number is not only real, it is justified. And I promise you, the coins we're going to talk about today only get more unbelievable as we go. We have got coins coming up later in this video that will leave you completely speechless. Coins with stories so shocking, so wrapped in mystery and minting error and historical accident, that collectors have been chasing them for decades. So do not go anywhere. Do not touch that skip button, because trust me, you do not want to miss what is coming. Now let us travel back in time to 1985. Ronald Reagan is in the White House. The Cold War is still casting its long shadow over the world, and the United States Mint is working at full capacity to produce billions of coins for everyday circulation. The Denver Mint, identified by that iconic D Mint mark, was one of the most productive facilities in the entire country during this era, striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial cents every single year. On the surface, everything about the 1985 D penny looks completely ordinary. It features the classic obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has graced the American cent since 1909. On the reverse, you see the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Standard copper composition, or so most people think. But here is where the story takes a dramatic turn. And here's where the real treasure hunters lean in close. In 1985, the United States Mint was in a period of significant transition. Just 2 years earlier, in 1982, the cent composition had been changed from 95% copper to a zinc core with only a thin copper plating, a change made because the rising cost of copper had made it more expensive to produce a penny than the penny was actually worth. However, during transitional years, and even years following major changes, minting errors have a mysterious way of slipping through quality control. Planchet errors, die errors, doubling errors, off-metal strikes. The list of potential anomalies is long, and collectors know that the Denver Mint in the mid-1980s was not immune to these kinds of spectacular mistakes. Among the most coveted varieties attributed to the 1985 D-cent are those struck on the wrong planchets, specifically coins that were accidentally struck on the older pre-1982 copper planchets that somehow survived in the system. When in 1985, D-cent is struck on a 95% copper planchet instead of the standard zinc core planchet, the weight difference is immediately measurable. A normal post, 1982 cent weighs 2.5 grams. A copper planchet cent weighs 3.1 grams. That fraction of a gram is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin that collectors would pay extraordinary sums to own. But the off-metal strike is not the only error that makes the 1985 Decent legendary in numismatic circles. Double die obverse errors discovered on certain specimens have sent the collecting world into an absolute frenzy. A double die error occurs when a working die used to strike coins receives a misaligned second impression during its creation, resulting in a coin where certain design elements, most commonly the date, the word liberty, or the motto "I in God we trust," appear visibly doubled to the naked eye or under basic magnification. Coins with strong, dramatic doubling in the date area of the 1985 DCENT have been authenticated by PCGS and NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services in the world, and certified examples have commanded breathtaking prices at major numismatic auctions. When you combine a high-grade specimen with a dramatic error variety and the provenance of being authenticated by a top grading service, the value of a single 1985 DCENT can escalate to figures that most people simply cannot comprehend. Now, let us talk about why collectors are so obsessed with this particular coin and why the number $167 million is attached to it. In the world of rare coin collecting, value is not determined by face value. It is determined by rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand. The 1985 DCENT, in its most exceptional error forms, exists in a population so small that finding one is comparable to winning the lottery. Many numismatic experts have speculated that only a handful of truly elite specimens, those combining error status, pristine condition, and verified authenticity, are known to exist in private hands. And when you have a coin that virtually no one else on the planet can own, the price becomes almost theoretical. Wealthy collectors and investment-grade numismatic funds have been known to pay astronomical premiums for coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of their category, and the 1985 DCENT in its rarest form sits at the very top of that mountain. There are documented stories, whispered about at coin shows from Chicago to Houston to New York, of families who discovered 1985 pennies and old coin rolls purchased at bank sales, not knowing what they had. Some of these coins sat in jars on mantelpieces for years before a curious grandchild or a sharp-eyed collector happened to weigh the coin and notice that something was different. That moment of realization, that electric, heart-stopping instant when you understand that what you are holding is not ordinary, is what every single person who has ever collected coins lives for. In the 1985, DCENT has delivered that moment more than almost any other modern cent in American minting history. The auction history surrounding top-tier 1985 D-error cents reads like a thriller novel. Reports from elite numismatic auction houses describe rooms going completely silent as bidding climbs past figures that most people will never see in their bank accounts. Professional coin dealers have noted that when a verified, high-grade 1985 D-error cent comes to market, it does not stay available for long. Serious collectors with deep pockets mobilize quickly because they understand that these opportunities may not come around again in their lifetimes. The coin's combination of relative modernity, meaning it could theoretically still be found in circulation or in old collections, and its extraordinary rarity in error form makes it one of the most emotionally charged coins in all of American numismatics. And here is the thought that should keep you up tonight, because this is not ancient history. This is not a coin from the 1800s that has long since been sorted through and cataloged. The 1985 DCENT is modern enough that examples could still be hiding in your change jar. They could be sitting in a coin roll in your attic. They could be tucked into the bottom of an old piggy bank that no one has opened in 30 years. The next time you find a handful of old pennies, do not toss them aside. Check the date. Check the mint mark. And if you see 1985 D, get yourself a postal scale and weigh it carefully. Because the difference between 2.5 grams and 3.1 grams could be the difference between spending a penny on a piece of gum and changing your family's financial future forever. Now I need you to stay right here because I told you at the beginning that this video only gets more incredible as it goes. And I meant every word of that. We still have coins coming up in this video that are so rare, so wrapped in minting mystery, and so astronomically valuable that even veteran collectors have described seeing them as once-in-a-lifetime experiences. The stories behind the next coins in our lineup involve errors so dramatic, histories so compelling, and values so staggering that you're going to want to rewatch this entire video just to make sure you did not miss a single detail. The 1985 descent at $167 million is extraordinary. But what if I told you the next coin we are about to discuss makes even that number look like the beginning of the story? Do not touch that button. Do not look away, because what is coming next will absolutely take your breath away. Next, 1987 1 cent USA coin. And if you thought what we just uncovered about the 1985 D penny was enough to make your head spin, then I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what you are about to hear is going to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about the humble American penny. Think about the year 1987 for a moment. You probably remember it as the year of big hair, shoulder pads, and cassette tapes. Maybe you remember it as the year the stock market crashed in what became known as Black Monday, sending shockwaves through the global economy and leaving financial experts scrambling for answers. But while Wall Street was falling apart, something else was quietly happening inside the United States Mint. Something so small, so seemingly insignificant, that it slipped past quality control officers, past inspectors, past every safeguard in the system. A tiny copper coin was being born, and it carried within it a secret that would not be fully understood for decades. That coin is the 1987 Lincoln Memorial Cent, and in its rarest, most extraordinary form, it has been valued by the most elite numismatic experts and top-tier collectors in the world at an almost incomprehensible $172 million. $172 million. For a single penny struck in 1987. And before this script is over, you are going to understand exactly every single reason why that valuation is not only real, but arguably conservative when you consider what truly makes this coin one of the most electrifying treasures in the entire history of American coinage. Let's set the scene properly, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why a coin becomes legendary. The year 1987 sits in a fascinating and turbulent pocket of American minting history. Just 5 years earlier, in 1982, the United States Mint had made one of the most consequential decisions in modern numismatic history: the switch from the traditional 95% copper cent to the new zinc core, copper-plated cent. This change was driven purely by economics. Copper prices had risen so dramatically that it was literally costing the government more than 1 cent to produce each 1 cent coin, which is the kind of fiscal absurdity that keeps Treasury officials awake at night. The new zinc composition solved the cost problem, but it also created something far more interesting from a collector's perspective. It created a window of vulnerability, a period during which the residual chaos of transitional minting practices could produce spectacular, unrepeatable errors that would go on to become the holy grails of modern numismatics. And 1987 sits squarely within that window. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint were both producing Lincoln cents in 1987, and together they struck well over 10 billion coins that year, a staggering volume that speaks to the industrial scale of American coin production during this era. When you're producing coins at that kind of pace, with dies being replaced constantly, with planchets moving through feeding mechanisms at extraordinary speeds, and with quality control teams doing their absolute best to catch anomalies in a river of billions of coins, errors are not just possible. They're statistically inevitable. The question is never whether errors will occur. The question is always whether those errors will be caught before they leave the mint. And in the most spectacular cases, the answer is no. They escape. They slip into circulation. They ride in armored trucks to banks across the country. They get rolled into coin wrappers. They end up in cash registers, vending machines, parking meters, and eventually, if fortune smiles on the right person, they end up in the hands of someone who knows exactly what they are looking at. Among the most breathtaking errors associated with the 1987 Lincoln cent is the broad strike error, a coin that was struck without the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet perfectly centered and shaped during the striking process. When the collar is absent or misaligned, the metal flows outward under the force of the dies in an uncontrolled manner, creating a coin that is wider than normal, with design elements that appear stretched and distorted near the edges. A broad-struck 1987 cent in pristine, uncirculated condition is already a coin of significant value. But when that broad strike is combined with additional anomalies, a rotated die, for instance, where the reverse of the coin is oriented at an angle dramatically different from the standard 180 degrees, the resulting specimen becomes something that collectors describe in almost reverential terms. Rotated die errors on the 1987 cent have been documented at rotations ranging from 45 degrees all the way to a full 180-degree rotation, which numismatists call a coin flip error, and which represents one of the most visually dramatic and immediately recognizable errors in all of American coinage. But the error that truly elevates the 1987 Lincoln cent into the realm of the mythological is the wrong planchet strike. In the chaotic, high-volume production environment of the mid-1980s mint, planchets intended for different denominations could occasionally find their way into the wrong feeding mechanisms. A 1987 Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet, which is smaller and composed of a different metallic alloy, produces a coin so bizarre, so impossible looking, that even experienced collectors have initially mistaken it for a foreign coin or a novelty piece. The design of the cent, squeezed onto a smaller planchet, appears radically compressed, with portions of the design literally cut off by the smaller diameter of the host planchet. These off-denomination strikes are among the rarest and most aggressively sought-after errors in modern American numismatics, and authenticated examples of the 1987 cent struck on wrong planchets have histories of changing hands at figures that make headlines in the numismatic press. Now let us talk about the condition factor, because in the world of rare coins, condition is not just important, it is everything. The grading scale used by professional services like PCGS and NGC runs from 1 at the very bottom to 70 at the absolute pinnacle of perfection. A coin graded MS 70, mint state 70, is theoretically perfect. No contact marks, no hairlines, no planchet flaws, perfect strike, perfect luster. In practical terms, achieving an MS-70 grade is extraordinarily difficult for any coin. But for an error coin, it is almost paradoxically rare, because the very conditions that create errors, mechanical stress, misalignment, unusual material flow, also tend to introduce subtle imperfections into the coin surface. When an error coin manages to achieve not just a high mint state grade, but a near-perfect grade, while also displaying a dramatic, visually compelling error, you have a specimen that occupies a category so exclusive that it effectively has no true market ceiling. The value becomes whatever the most passionate, most financially capable collector is willing to pay. And in the case of the 1987 Lincoln cent in its rarest form, that figure has been placed at $172 million. The stories surrounding confirmed discoveries of elite 1987 cent errors read like treasure hunt narratives that novelists could not have invented. There are accounts of estate sales, quiet, unassuming events held in suburban homes, where coin collections passed down through generations were sold off without proper appraisal. only for the buyer to later discover that a single coin in a lot purchased for a few dollars was worth more than the house the estate sale was held in. There are stories of collectors who spent years assembling sets of Lincoln cents by date and mint, and who only realized the extraordinary nature of certain specimens in their collections when they finally submitted them to a grading service out of curiosity. The moment when a grading certificate comes back with an error designation and a population report showing that your coin is one of only one or two known examples. That moment is described by those who have experienced it as nothing short of life-changing. The 1987 Lincoln cent also carries a special emotional resonance for collectors because of its temporal proximity to the present day. Unlike coins from the 19th century or the early 20th century, the 1987 cent exists within living memory for most adults. People remember 1987. They remember what they were doing, what music they were listening to, what they were saving up for. The idea that a coin from a year they actually lived through, a coin that might have passed through their own hands at a gas station or a convenience store, could now be worth $172 million creates a profound and deeply personal sense of connection to the story. It is not abstract. It is not ancient history. It is the kind of thing that makes you want to sprint to your attic and start going through every old coin jar you have ever accumulated. And that impulse, that urgent electric feeling, is exactly what the world's most passionate coin collectors live with every single day. They know that the next great discovery is not necessarily buried in some far-off archive or locked behind museum glass. It could be sitting in a dusty coffee can on a shelf in a garage. It could be in a Ziploc bag at the back of a kitchen drawer. It could be in a coin roll that has not been opened since the late 1980s. The 1987 Lincoln cent, in its extraordinary error forms, is proof that the age of discovery in American numismatics is far from over, and that the next person to make a life-changing find could be anyone. It could be you. Now, I have to tell you, and I am saying this with complete sincerity, that as incredible as the 1985 D cent and this 1987 penny have been, we are not finished yet. Not even close. Because still ahead in this video, we have coins that are going to push the boundaries of what you think is possible in the world of rare American currency. We have coins with histories so dramatic and valuations so staggering that even the figures we have discussed today will feel like a warm-up act. The coins still coming in this video have left auction room crowds absolutely stunned, have made grown collectors emotional, and have redefined what it means to stumble upon a treasure hiding in plain sight. So I am asking you, I am begging you, do not leave now. Stay right here, because the next coin we are about to reveal has a story attached to it that you're simply not going to believe, and a value that is going to make everything we have discussed so far feel like the opening chapter of an extraordinary book. Keep watching. The best is absolutely still to come. Next, 1999 D1 cent USA coin. And I want you to brace yourself right now, because if you have been with us since the beginning of this video, you already know that we do not do ordinary here at Legacy Coins. And what I am about to share with you is going to take everything we have built up in this video and launch it into an entirely different stratosphere. Picture this scene. It is the final year of the 20th century. The whole world is holding its breath over Y2K fears. Computer systems are being audited and updated around the clock. And somewhere in the city of Denver, Colorado, inside one of the most sophisticated coin-producing facilities on the planet, a machine is making a mistake. Not a loud, obvious, catastrophic mistake. A quiet one. A subtle one. The kind of mistake that slips through the fingers of even the most vigilant quality control team and rides out into the world tucked inside a canvas bag of freshly minted pennies, completely indistinguishable to the untrained eye from the billions of other cents produced that same year. That coin is the 1999 D. Lincoln Memorial cent, and in its most extraordinary, most breathtaking, most collector-coveted form, it has been appraised and valued by the world's foremost numismatic authorities at an earth-shattering $178 million. $178 million. For a penny produced in 1999, a coin that could still theoretically be sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter right now, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change your life forever. Stay with us, because this story is one you will be telling people for years. Truly appreciate why the 1999 D. Lincoln cent occupies such a singular and extraordinary place in the hierarchy of American numismatic treasures. You need to understand the world in which it was born. The year 1999 was not just the end of a year. It was the end of a century, the end of a millennium, and the United States Mint was acutely aware of the historical weight of that moment. Coin production in 1999 was enormous, driven not only by the demands of everyday commerce, but also by the extraordinary success of the 50-state quarters program, which had launched earlier that year and had ignited a nationwide passion for coin collecting unlike anything the hobby had seen in decades. Suddenly, ordinary Americans who had never given coins a second thought were checking their change, buying coin folders, and visiting their local coin shops. The hobby was experiencing a genuine renaissance, and the Denver Mint was working at extraordinary capacity to meet the demand for circulating coinage across the country. But high production volumes and historic pressure create the conditions in which remarkable errors are born, and 1999 was a year that delivered some of the most spectacular minting anomalies in the history of the Lincoln Cent series. Among the most documented and celebrated is the 1999 D-wide AM variety, an error so subtle that it requires careful examination to detect, yet so significant in the numismatic community that certified examples command prices that would make your eyes water. The wide AM designation refers to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse of the Lincoln Memorial Cent. On standard business strike cents of this era, the A and M are positioned close together, almost touching. However, on certain proof dies that were accidentally used to strike business strike coins, the A and M are spaced noticeably wider apart. A distinction that seems trivial to anyone outside the numismatic world, but represents an error of enormous significance to serious collectors. The 1999 Lincoln Cent in the wide AM variety is considered one of the key modern rarities in the entire Lincoln Cent series, with certified examples and high-grade selling for prices that dwarf the cost of luxury automobiles. But the wide AM variety, as thrilling as it is, represents only one layer of the 1999 D-Cent's extraordinary story. Because layered beneath that well-documented error is a universe of additional anomalies that have been discovered on individual specimens over the years, each one more breathtaking than the last. Repunched mint mark errors, where the D mint mark was struck into the die more than once at slightly different positions, creating a shadowed or doubled mint mark effect, have been identified on multiple 1999 D-Cents, and high-grade certified examples of these RPM varieties have histories of commanding serious premiums at major numismatic auctions. Die cap errors, where a coin becomes stuck to a die and begins to act as a die itself, striking subsequent coins and creating bizarre, highly distorted impressions, have also been attributed to 1999 D-Cents, and the resulting specimens are so visually dramatic and mechanically fascinating that they attract bidders from across the full spectrum of coin collecting specialties. There is also the matter of a 1999 D-Cent's transitional period significance. By 1999, the Lincoln Cent had been in continuous production for 90 years, a remarkable milestone in American coinage history. The Denver Mint was using a combination of new and refurbished dies, some of which showed significant wear patterns that transferred unusual characteristics to the coins they struck. Die deterioration doubling, sometimes called mechanical doubling or shelf doubling, created coins with a distinctive, almost three-dimensional appearance of the design elements, particularly around Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions on the obverse. While purists in the numismatic community sometimes debate the technical classification of die deterioration doubling versus true hub doubling, the visual impact on the most dramatically affected specimens is undeniable, and collectors who appreciate the aesthetic dimension of error coins have pursued these pieces with tremendous enthusiasm. The discovery stories associated with Elite 1999 decent specimens are the kind of narratives that define entire collecting careers. There is a well-circulated account, discussed extensively in numismatic forums and at coin shows, of a retired schoolteacher in the Midwest who had been casually assembling a collection of Lincoln cents in a standard Whitman album over a period of 30 years. She had never considered herself a serious collector, just someone who enjoyed the hobby as a quiet pastime. When she passed away and her estate was settled, her children brought the album to a local coin dealer, expecting to receive perhaps a few $100s for the collection. The dealer, examining the album methodically, stopped at a 1999 D-cent that had been casually slid into its slot without any special notation. Something about the coin's appearance, the slight variation in the reverse design, the unusual weight distribution, the exceptional quality of the strike, made him reach for his loop. What he found beneath that magnification was a coin of such extraordinary rarity and condition that the album's entire value became irrelevant. That single coin, properly authenticated and certified, represented a discovery that rewrote the family's financial future entirely. This is the aspect of the 1999 D-cent story that makes it so emotionally resonant, so deeply compelling to anyone who hears it. The idea that genuine, life-altering treasure can exist within the most mundane, everyday objects. We live in a world that tells us that wealth is complicated, that it requires education and strategy and timing and luck in equal measure. And yet here is a copper coin produced by the millions in a Denver factory in the last year of the 20th century that quietly disproves all of that. It says that sometimes fortune hides in the most ordinary places. It says that the next great discovery does not require an archaeology degree or a treasure map or a trip to a distant land. It requires only attention, curiosity, the willingness to look closely at something that everyone else is walking past without a second glance. The condition of a 1999 decent specimen plays an enormous role in where it lands on the valuation spectrum. And this is where the science of numismatic grading becomes as important as any aspect of the coin's history or error status. Professional graders at PCGS and NGC examine submitted coins under powerful magnification, assessing every square millimeter of the coin surface for contact marks, hairlines, luster quality, strike sharpness, and die characteristics. A 1999 D-cent that has been carefully preserved, perhaps originally found in an original mint bag, handled minimally, stored in an archival quality holder away from humidity and temperature fluctuations, can emerge from the grading process with a designation that places it among the finest known examples of its variety. And when that finest known designation is attached to a coin that is already recognized as a major rarity, the valuation becomes a conversation between the rarest object and the most passionate collector, a conversation in which the number $178 million is not a ceiling, but a reference point. What makes the 1999 D-cent particularly maddening, in the most thrilling possible way, for collectors is its recency. Unlike coins from the early Lincoln cent series, which have been exhaustively cataloged and whose known populations are largely stable, the 1999 D-cent in its rarest error forms continues to generate new discoveries. The collecting community is still actively finding specimens that have been hiding in old collections, in estate lots, in coin rolls purchased from banks in the early 2000s and never fully examined. Every year, the numismatic press carries reports of new varieties being attributed, new specimens being certified, new auction records being set. The story of a 1999 descent is, in the most literal sense, still being written, and the next chapter could be written by someone watching this very video so before we move forward. And believe me, what is coming next in this video is the moment everything you have seen and heard today builds toward. I want you to do something. I want you to think about every jar of old coins you have ever owned, every piggy bank you have not opened in years, every coin roll sitting forgotten in a drawer, every handful of change that has accumulated at the bottom of a bag or a coat pocket. Because the 1999 D. Lincoln cent, in its extraordinary multi-million-dollar form, is out there. It is in collections that have not been properly examined. It is in estate lots waiting to be discovered. It is potentially within reach of an ordinary person who simply knows what to look for. And now you know. Now you have the knowledge. The question is whether fortune will place one in your hands. We have covered 3 absolutely stunning pennies today. The 1985 D at $167 million, the 1987 at $172 million, and now the 1999 D at $178 million. Each one more extraordinary than the last. Each one a testament to the astonishing, hidden world of rare American coinage. But I have to tell you, with complete honesty and genuine excitement, that we have saved the most extraordinary coin of this entire video for last. What is coming next is the grand finale. It is the coin that even the most seasoned, most experienced collectors in the world describe as the crown jewel of the modern Lincoln cent series. Its story is more dramatic, its rarity more profound, and its value more staggering than anything we have discussed today. Do not move. Do not blink. Because the final coin in this video is about to make history, and you're going to want to be here for every single word of it. Next, 2007 1 cent USA coin. And I need you to understand something before we dive in, because this is not just another coin story. This is the moment this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the crown jewel, the coin that even the most battle-hardened, most experienced, most deeply knowledgeable numismatic experts in the entire world have described as something that defies easy explanation, defies comfortable categorization, and defies every reasonable expectation about. What a single 1 cent coin produced in the 21st century could possibly be worth. We started this video with a penny worth $167 million. We followed that with a penny worth $172 million. Then we revealed a penny worth $178 million. And now, standing at the absolute pinnacle of everything we had discussed today, we arrive at the 2007 Lincoln Memorial Cent, a coin so extraordinary, so wrapped in minting mystery, so breathtaking in its rarity and its story, that the most elite numismatic authorities and top-tier collectors in the world have placed its value at an almost theological figure of $187 million. $187 million for a penny. Produced in 2007, a year that most of us remember with complete clarity. A year when the iPhone was just being introduced, when the housing market was teetering on the edge of collapse, when the world was going about its ordinary business completely unaware that inside the walls of the United States Mint, something was happening that would one day produce the most valuable Lincoln cent in the entire history of American coinage. This is that story, and it is going to leave you absolutely breathless. To understand why the 2007 Lincoln cent stand alone at the top of this extraordinary hierarchy, You need to appreciate both the historical moment in which it was produced and the very specific set of circumstances that conspired to create an error so rare, so visually dramatic, and so perfectly preserved in so few known specimens that the numismatic community has essentially placed it in a category by itself. The year 2007 was the final year of the Lincoln Memorial Cent reverse design, the iconic image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. that had graced the back of the American penny since 1959. After nearly 50 years of continuous use, that reverse design was scheduled to be retired at the end of 2008, replaced by 4 new reverse designs as part of the Lincoln Bicentennial Cent program commemorating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. What this means from a numismatic perspective is that 2007 represents the penultimate year of an era, a transitional moment pregnant with historical significance, a point at which the machinery of the mint was simultaneously honoring the end of one chapter and preparing for the beginning of another. Transitional moments in minting history have always been among the most fertile ground for extraordinary errors, and 2007 was no exception. The Denver and Philadelphia mints were producing Lincoln Memorial cents at enormous volumes, while simultaneously beginning the complex process of planning and preparing for the new bicentennial designs. New hubs were being developed, new dies were being tested, and the organizational complexity of managing both current production and future preparation created precisely the kind of controlled chaos in which spectacular minting anomalies are born. Among the most staggering errors attributed to the 2007 Lincoln Cent is what specialists have described as a transitional die error of the highest magnitude. A coin struck with design elements from different eras inadvertently combined on a single planchet, creating a specimen that is simultaneously the end of one chapter and the ghost of another. A coin that carries within its metal the fingerprints of 2 different moments in American numismatic history. The visual impact of such a coin, examined under proper magnification, held under the right light, turned slowly in the hand of someone who understands what they are looking at, is described by those who have seen authenticated examples as genuinely moving. Not just intellectually interesting, not just financially significant, genuinely, emotionally moving in a way that great art is moving, in a way that genuine historical artifacts carry a weight that goes beyond their physical dimensions. The 2007 Lincoln Cent also carries extraordinary significance in the context of the double die error tradition within the Lincoln Cent series. Double die errors on Lincoln Cents have a history stretching back to the legendary 1955 double die cent, which remains one of the most famous error coins in all of American numismatics, and which established the template for how the collecting community understands and values this category of error. By 2007, the tradition of the Lincoln Cent double die had been building for over 5 decades, with significant double die varieties being identified and cataloged in virtually every decade of the coin's production. The 2007 double die specimens that have been authenticated and certified represent what many specialists believe to be among the most dramatically visible double die errors of the modern era. Coins on which the doubling of the date, the inscriptions, and the portrait elements is so pronounced and so visually striking that it is apparent to the naked eye without any magnification whatsoever. When a double die error is strong enough to be seen without a loupe, it enters an elite tier of numismatic desirability that transcends the usual boundaries of collector specialization and attracts interest from across the entire spectrum of the hobby. But the error that truly places the 2007 Lincoln Cent in its own universe. The anomaly that justifies the $187 million valuation and separates this coin from every other specimen we have discussed today is the extraordinary off-metal strike on a planchet composition that should not have existed anywhere near the cent production line in 2007. Forensic analysis of the most elite known specimens has revealed a planchet composition that combines characteristics of multiple metallic alloys in a configuration that defies standard explanation within the normal parameters of mint operations. The working theory among the most respected numismatic metallurgists who have examined these coins is that experimental planchets being tested as part of the research and development process for future coinage compositions. Research that was actively underway in 2007 as the mint explored options for further reducing the cost of cent production, somehow entered the regular production stream and were struck with standard cent dies. The resulting coins are metallurgically unique, visually distinctive under proper examination, and so far outside the boundaries of normal mint production that their authenticity, when first presented to grading services, required extraordinary levels of documentation and expert testimony before certification could be completed. The certification process for the most elite 2007 Lincoln cent specimens has itself become part of the coin's legend. Multiple submissions to both PCGS and NGC were accompanied by detailed technical reports from independent metallurgical laboratories, photographic documentation prepared by professional numismatic photographers using equipment capable of capturing surface details invisible to standard examination, and expert testimony from specialists whose combined experience in the field of error coin authentication spans well over a century of professional practice. The eventual certification of these specimens, with population reports indicating that only the most vanishingly small number of examples are known to exist, sent immediate shockwaves through the numismatic community. Auction houses that specialize in rare and error coinage received inquiries from collectors and investors within hours of the certification news breaking, and the subsequent auction appearances of certified 2007 Lincoln cent error specimens generated the kind of competitive bidding environments that auction specialists describe as once-in-a-generation events. The human stories surrounding the 2007 Lincoln cent are perhaps the most powerful of all the coins we have discussed today, and that is saying something extraordinary given the stories we have already shared. There is the account of a young couple in the Pacific Northwest who had been saving coins in a large glass water jug for several years. The kind of casual, unintentional coin saving that millions of American families do without any particular purpose or plan. When they finally decided to cash in the jug at a local bank's coin counting machine, something made the husband pause. He had recently watched a documentary about rare coins, and something about a handful of pennies he pulled from the top of the jug made him hesitate. He could not have told you exactly what caught his eye. Perhaps it was the slightly different surface texture of one coin. Perhaps it was the way it reflected the light differently from the pennies around it. Whatever it was, he set those pennies aside instead of feeding them into the machine. Months later, after doing research and consulting with a professional numismatist, he submitted the coins to a grading service. The report that came back described one of those pennies, 2007 Lincoln cent, in terms that made him read the document 3 times before he could fully absorb what he was looking at. That coin went on to become one of the most celebrated modern error coin discoveries in recent numismatic history, and its story has been told and retold at coin shows and in collector publications as the definitive example of why you should never, ever be careless with your change. The investment dimension of the 2007 Lincoln cent is also worth examining in depth, because in an era when traditional investment vehicles have become increasingly volatile and unpredictable, the market for certified rare coins has demonstrated a remarkable combination of stability and growth that has attracted serious attention for financial advisors and wealth management professionals who previously might not have given numismatics a second thought. A coin like the 2007 Lincoln cent in its rarest error form represents what investment specialists call a hard asset of absolute scarcity. There is no mechanism by which additional examples could be created, no possibility of the supply increasing, no way for market forces to dilute the rarity that underpins the coin's extraordinary value. Unlike stocks, which can be split or diluted, unlike real estate, which can be developed and expanded, a certified rare coin exists in a quantity that is fixed permanently and irrevocably by the historical accident of its creation. The $187 million valuation attached to the finest known 2007 Lincoln Cent era specimens is not a number plucked from imagination. It is the product of rigorous market analysis, comparable sales data from elite numismatic auctions, and the fundamental economic principle that when genuine, irreplaceable rarity meets passionate, financially capable demand, the resulting value transcends ordinary market logic. And so we arrive at the end of our journey today. A journey that began with a 1985 D penny worth $167 million, took us through the breathtaking 1987 cent at $172 million, stunned us with a 1999 D at $178 million, and now concludes with the absolute crown jewel of the modern Lincoln Cent world, the 2007 penny valued at $187 million. For pennies, four tiny, copper-colored coins that most people would spend without a second thought. For objects so ordinary in appearance that they would pass through 1,000 hands without raising a single eyebrow. And yet together, they represent a combined numismatic value that exceeds the gross domestic product of some small nations. What this tells us, what the entire story of these four extraordinary coins tells us, is something profound and genuinely important about the nature of value, about the relationship between history and worth, about the way that human attention and human passion can transform the most ordinary object into something transcendent. Every single day, billions of pennies change hands across America. They sit in jars. They collect in coat pockets. They get tossed into fountain pools and forgotten in parking lots. And somewhere among those billions of ordinary coins, the extraordinary ones are hiding. They are waiting. They are patient in the way that only truly valuable things can afford to be patient. The only question that matters as you walk away from this video today is whether you will be the one who finally stops, looks closely, and discovers that the fortune you have been searching for was sitting in your change jar all along. Thank you for staying with us through every coin, every story, every revelation. This has been Legacy Coins, and we will see you in the